Hello, welcome back to The Living Process. This is episode 33. My name is Greg Madison, and this time I'm very happy to welcome back Russell Delman. Russell, as many of you know, is a long time in the focusing world, was a friend and colleague of Eugene Gendlin. He also has trained in a number of different methods, Feldenkrais and Zen meditation principally. And he and his wife, Linda, have put together the Embodied Life International Training Program. In this episode, we return to some of the issues and topics that we touched on in our first conversation. We talk quite a bit about meaning, about survival, about the intimacy of the present moment, and feeling kind of fully alive physically, the importance of the physical body in that, and sort of a little bit the different emphasis that he and Gendlin had on some of these topics, and also being a little less shy about owning the spiritual aspect of embodiment. So I really hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did. Episode 33, The Embodied Life, again with Russell Delman. So welcome back to Russell.
Thank you so much, Greg. Great to be here.
Yeah, real pleasure to see you again. And there's a few topics that came out of our initial conversation, and I think especially your further thinking about it. And so we wanted to meet again and sort of see where those topics take us.
Hmm. Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Where would you like to begin?
Hmm. I know uh, part of what was inspiring for me and had a forward living energy was around how us human beings create meaning in our life,
Mhm.
meaningfulness, and yeah, as I've been reflecting and teaching since then, it seems so germane for everybody. And and I was realizing that for me, there's a simplistic, perhaps, insight that those who know Abraham Maslow and the hierarchy of needs, etc., that is really right. That you need to have your safety needs met first. Your security, your safety, safe enough, I like to call it, because ultimately, who's safe? But safe enough that we have food, shelter, that we're not carrying a immediate defense around bombs and guns, etc., etc. So that's essential, and in a funny, that's not the right word, in a ironic way, those kind of survival needs have implicit meaning. The, the urge of the organism to continue
Mhm.
is implicitly meaningful, which is part of what makes it, again, ironic, challenging for so many people who, you know, middle class, upper class, who have most of their needs met in most of the cultures that are listening to this, and feel basically safe enough most of the time, and are not worried about eating, and are not worried about their kids eating, and are not worried about their immediate health care, and all that stuff. There is often then a blank. That's when human beings no longer have implicit meaning supplied by the life situation, but are creating their own meaning.
Mhm.
And and so then I began to get interested in, well, is it true that kind of all other impulses in the human being have something to do with meaning?
Yeah.
That our desire for connection to others, for love, for creating something. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Let,
was the drift. Yeah,
let
go
me say
ahead.
it back to you. Uh,
Yeah,
and I'll twist it a little bit. I know I will, partly on purpose, just to see what comes back.
twist away.
Okay. Um, I'll say it this way, for every human being, there are the basic survival needs that need to be met before we can relax and even think about anything else. First of all, we have to survive. And there is that implicit, you didn't say it this way, but this implicit wanting to survive.
Mm, yeah.
That already is a kind of meaning.
Mm,
There's a care. We're not just indifferent
mm,
about surviving. There's already something meaningful there.
mm,
And in situations where those needs are met, we can assume survival needs are not what we need to pay attention to. Then the question comes, what what does, well, I'll say it this way, what does a human being do?
mm, mm, mm.
It's
Yeah.
like there's some other kind of implied need for meaning, and the word meaning might be slightly different in these two different levels,
Mm, mm,
but
mm,
there's some almost crisis of meaning because
mm,
suddenly it's not just implied by the life situation, it's something we have to participate in creating.
mm. Yes, very good. Yeah, and I think Jean's expression, life forward process,
Mhm.
is really key there because you're identifying more clearly than I did that implicitly there is this life forward livingness in human beings.
Yeah.
This life forward, I want to survive. That's kind of prime, original program in the brain. We could say survive,
Mhm. Mhm.
and and then when the implicitness of that, when it's handled, the physical and basic needs are met, then it gets really interesting. What is life forwardness?
Mhm.
What is life forwardness? Now, our cultures try to answer that. It's one of the, in my judgment, traps of capitalistic culture, potential traps of capitalism, where meaning comes from getting stuff,
Mhm.
and it's so short-lived. We could analogize it to a drug high, and actually neurologically, there's something similar about shopping, buying something new, to what happens to the dopamine and the neurotransmitters. It's quite remarkable the way that we're set up for those kinds of rewards.
Yeah.
And so there is a kind of almost like trick,
Yeah.
and yet for so many of us, we see through it. We get that that's not doing it. Maybe we have to play with that for a while when I get that car, that house, that whatever. But then, and even during the search for that, there's often that empty feeling. There's often that, is this it?
Mhm.
Is that all there is?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
The term that comes to me as I'm listening to you is it's kind of like cheap meaning.
nice. Yeah. Kind of like cheap meaning. Yeah, so then, we can observe the almost desperation inside us, us human beings, to carve the path, and so historically, religion satisfied that often as a self-identity as much as for an experience. Okay, and this is a key distinction I want to get into, is certain forms of meaning can bring, oh, I am a this.
Yeah.
Even people with sports teams, and I love sports, and you get into a team and you go, oh, my team won. And this kind of like, this thrill that's surprisingly powerful. And there's even something meaningful in following that. I'm looking forward to a basketball game tonight that I will see how my team does. And it's a little silly, but it's there. And then there are other, there are things like our families, our relationships that have this great meaning for so many people, right? And for some, it's their art, their creativity really brings meaning for people. For some, it is a spiritual path.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to make a distinction that is not black and white, that overlaps, but I think is really important. It's the distinction between a self-identity,
Mm-hmm.
a belonging to a certain group or tribe or something, and the experience of being alive in a moment.
Yeah.
So, can you start? It's not so easy to put into words.
Well, I'm immediately wondering if in the focusing community, we could say the distinction is between naming yourself, calling yourself a focuser,
Mm-hmm.
as distinct from someone who actually focuses.
Mm. Mm. Yeah,
Even
yeah.
makes it into a daily practice. Somebody even maybe naturally who's never heard of focusing, but does it and feels the value of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And kind of along those lines, I would say one of the traps in when focusing is only identified as a therapeutic system
Mhm.
and a problem-solving system, it it gets a much more limited sense of meaning,
Yeah.
right? And okay, so I want to take a step back because I want to try to get this as clearly as I can. So I know people, students, clients from over the years who, the most important thing in their life is their family. That's what gives structure, meaning, identity. I'm a father.
Mhm.
I'm a mother. I'm a this. I'm a that. And when we look at the daily experience that they're having, is often not very satisfying.
Mhm.
And yet, on the anniversary, at New Year's, at the birthday, there's the celebration of, oh, we are a family. And I'm very interested in that, in how one experiences the moments of their life
Mhm.
and the stories one creates about who I am and what's important to me.
Yeah.
And they're both important and they overlap, but they are distinct, and that distinction is important.
Mhm. I'm immediately thinking about that distinction in terms of what you were saying about meaning.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, so I've been with a variety of people near their death. And as the old story goes, no one ever says, I wish I spent more time at the office. It's usually, I wish I had more time with my family or my loved ones, or I gave more, or I really pursued that art that I developed a little bit, or, those are the kind of regrets that tend to come up. And yet, if you ask them along the way, those were the key areas of meaning and identity and what was important. And what I realize is that there's something about, and this is where Zen or meditation, certain forms, and certain approaches to focusing can be really helpful of not waiting to be grateful for the love that is given, that is available, for the gifts of creativity and connection, and that become not only a kind of daily living, but something that is calling to us very often during a day.
Mm-hmm.
The sense that I'll tell you where some of this, some of this has come from the years of Zen, but also I was teaching a workshop. I used to, every year for, 30 years or something. This is the first year I haven't done it. I was teaching workshops in gratitude and forgiveness. Those two subjects seem so key, and really beautiful opportunities for learning. And I realized early on that gratitude is, in my view, the easiest life-giving state to grow intentionally. That one can learn to organize their attention to find something that they're grateful for almost any moment of their life if they pay attention. Yeah? And so this was a very important theme, continues to be an important theme in my teachings and in my living. And I was teaching this course actually at Esalen out in California a long time ago. And I was teaching, I don't know, these 4 or 5 doorways to gratitude, had my little system, and, the people in your life, the abilities you've been given, and some of the places you've gotten to be at. And so I had 4 or 5 things. And people would share about that, go into really embodying what that gave to them, and what it would be like to carry in really a daily way the sense of, I am being given this.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the participants who loved the course, he said, wait, there's one missing. And I said, oh, please help me. He goes, what about gratitude just for being alive? Just for being alive.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that, yeah, right, that's what the emphasis in Zen is about, and that's what I hadn't named yet, but was important in my living, was, can I be here? Can I be present doing the dishes?
Mm-hmm.
It's the chop wood, carry water image that comes from Zen of most of our life are not thrilling moments. Most of our life are very ordinary.
Yeah.
And attention and presence allows ordinary moments to sometimes be extraordinary, sometimes be quite a gift. And that actually became really a center of my life and my teaching, bridging the emphasis in Zen to embodying a moment. We're always in a body. And then how focusing
Mhm.
can enhance that. And that was a really helpful step to get, oh, when there is something inside that's in the way
Mhm.
of me being here,
Yes.
can I be present enough to say hello to that and listen to that and not wait 2 weeks as it builds up and becomes a real something? And and so that's part of why my gratitude for focusing and my concern about it becoming therapized.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely share that concern because I think it belittles the potential of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a therapist, so not to take anything away from
Yeah.
its
And I
therapeutic
don't mean
value.
to at
No,
all. Right.
I know you don't. Um, but to confine it to that too much is lost. And I want
Mm,
to just respond to what you were just saying because as you were
great.
talking about gratitude, I could feel in my chest this very exquisite, subtle but exquisite feeling
Mm,
in response. I don't know if that in itself is a feeling of gratitude, but it is a feeling that comes on its own. It's like I don't
mm,
will it. But
yeah.
I think maybe what happens is what you were saying a moment ago. It's those moments when there's really not very much in the way. And it
There. Right.
rises. It's not because I can be sitting, not doing anything special. I'm not sitting in a beautiful place or anything. I'm just, it's ordinary. And suddenly this
Mm,
subtly exquisite feeling comes. And I do feel this gratitude. And
mm,
I would call it for maybe gratitude for being alive, but also gratitude just for that moment, just
yeah.
for the present. Somehow there's something, it's very, very present centered,
Mm,
and yet it seems to open up to a slightly timeless quality.
mm,
And there can be
absolutely.
images that I've lived in the past where maybe I felt the same thing, or it's like some kind of little channel seems to open
Yes.
that's feels like um, I'm tempted to say feels like it's absolutely enough.
Mm, mm. Oh, it's beautiful. Let's pause there a second, Greg. That's
Yeah.
beautifully put. I resonate very much that sense
Yeah.
of it's enough. It's enough.
Yeah.
You know, the poet David White.
Yes.
Yeah, right, wonderful
Yeah.
English, living in Wales. So he has a poem called Enough, and it was when he was at a Zen retreat, and so he goes, enough. These few words are enough. If not these words, this breath. If not this breath, this being here, this returning to the life I have rejected again and again until now,
Yeah.
until now. Right? That sense that, and this is I don't think it's a unique discovery, but one of the things came early on in teaching these gratitude workshops was that I would ask people to go back through their day and think of moments when they felt even a little bit touched by life,
Hmm.
touched by a moment. And people would be amazed to find how many moments, whether it was the warm water in the shower, the smell of the shampoo, the taste of the toothpaste. There were so many moments where there was, if you lower the bar for being touched, but it really was touched, it's not made up.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I would ask, is it true that lingering maybe within or behind those moments, something like gratitude is there? And almost everybody would go, oh, they're there. And we'd start noticing, is it true that when you're touched by life, gratitude is either right there or not far behind, that you can contact it?
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of us, we've learned to focus so much on our own pleasure that we don't notice that we're grateful for it. So we get lost. But if you ask that question, it's there most of the time. And then notice when you feel spontaneously grateful for a parking spot that appears, for anything, have you been touched by life? Has the moment spoken to you in some way that went in?
Mm-hmm.
And we can go from gratitude to feeling the gifts of life, or from feeling the gifts of life into gratitude, and they become like they're living together, like not the same thing, but very close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that becomes a real opening to what I'm going to call now meaningful moments. Now, how do we get to meaning there? Well, there is something about feeling connected to the living moment. As you began to say before, it is something about, the way I put it is, the moment is alive.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We right now are meeting in a living moment. People are watching this in a living moment. And you said it, in my opinion, just right, where the present moment is a doorway to the timeless. So the people watching this a month from now, a week, whatever, are participating in the moment that it's a new moment, but it's the same moment also. And we are engaged together in this meeting, and perhaps they are also feeling some sense of touched and grateful, and some kind of implicit, it's worth it here.
Yeah.
It's worth
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
alive.
Yeah, exactly.
It sounds funny, but it's like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah.
that, you know, actually, I get moved when I think about how desperate so many people are. It seems more so, maybe I'm making that up, I don't know, but it seems more so in the current world, as technology offers the great gifts, but also the illusion, like that cheap high that we were talking about. And so there's this seeking of more and more and more to stimulate
Mm-hmm.
something
Yeah.
that has meaning. And I mean, it's as mundane as Broadway shows are now broadcast at a much louder decibel level than they used to be. Not just because people can't hear, but because people need more stimulation to feel something. And that, if we generalize that, we go, oh, human beings are getting out of touch. A lot of us in the developing world, a lot of us successful folks who have our security needs met, are getting disconnected more and more
Yeah.
from living experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
and therefore we rely on our stories. I'm a successful businessman. I belong to this church. I've got this, my family is secure, which are all good things and potential real sources of meaning, but often become substitutes
Yeah.
for living experience.
Yeah.
And that frightens me, saddens me. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just taking it in. What you're saying now really resonates with me. The kind of moments that we were talking about, um, where there is something like gratitude,
Mm-hmm.
and the way you said it, it's like, oh, it is worth it.
Mm.
And I wanted to just add on, oh, it is worth it after all.
Yeah.
Just because there is so much of this trying to convince myself this
Mm.
is meaningful, this is important,
Mm.
this is what I should dedicate myself to. And it's like it all comes with this kind of sloganizing or sort of half trying to convince myself,
Mm.
which
Mm.
is such a different experience from a moment that just opens up.
Mm.
And
Mm.
it's like it's not the content of the doing in the moment.
Mm.
It's not like it has to be a moment where you're writing, a prize-winning
Mhm.
book or something.
Mm.
It's just a moment where it's like there's this, the way I would describe it is it's just a subtle kind of surging through.
Mm.
It's like
Mm.
there's just, for some reason, like doing the dishes or whatever, you pause and there's like, in that moment, there's not enough in the way.
Mm. Mm.
So this little subtle gratitude can come out and be felt a little bit.
Mm. Yeah.
My question is, what is that? Why? It's because it starts to feel for me a little bit like, oh, this is what's always there.
Mm. Mhm.
And it makes me wonder, like, why?
Mm.
When I'm really in touch with a moment that externally might seem like nothing,
Mm. Mm.
um, when I'm really in touch in that way, why is it gratitude? Why does it have that
Mm.
exquisite quality to it?
Yeah.
It's not neutral.
Right. 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 Mm. You know, one of the most profound words in in describing certain schools of Zen, a word that's used from, I got it from Zen Master Dogen, is intimacy. Intimacy.
Mm,
Intimacy with the moment. And intimacy with anything
mhm,
is I would say, a deep longing because there's something inside that, this is a little tricky, while it's essential perhaps and wonderful to value our individuality, there's a longing to dissolve also
mhm, mhm,
into this.
mhm.
And a lot of people misinterpret that as saying, oh, to live in that oneness, that's what it's about. Well, I actually don't think so. I think that there's a natural movement between individuality and letting go of our sense of a separate self.
Yeah.
And that's very subtle. It's not, some disassociation. It's not some dysfunctional. It's these timeless moments where my story about myself is way in the background, and there is a meeting, an intimacy, a connectedness,
Hmm.
and that is implicitly satisfying, fulfilling, meaningful. And most people have that, at least a little bit, consciously, and very often, and this sounds crazy, there are many moments that are right there if they would tune into them.
Hmm.
And that's part of that practice I would do in the gratitude seminar. Go back through the day and recall moments where there was even a little bit of being touched. And people would go and they'd, oh, there's this, oh, I saw, and they'd even have the experience. I wasn't so present at the time, but something inside took it in.
Hmm. Yeah.
Now, in the Buddhist world, that would be called your Buddha nature or your true self. But we could just say that the functioning of the organism is not only in your conscious mind, but your body is receiving these impressions. Your heart is receiving these impressions, and you can even go back to them later
Yeah.
and have a deeper experience of a moment, which turns be here now on its head.
Yeah.
So I can be more now with something that happened this morning than I was then because I was distracted, but something in me took it in.
Yeah.
Isn't
Yeah.
that crazy?
Yeah. No, I totally understand what you're talking about, and it is a bit crazy. But it also makes me wonder about the thing that you started with when you're talking about meaning.
Mm,
Because as I'm listening to you, on my deathbed, I would imagine, I don't know, of course, but I would imagine it really is those experiences of those moments that I think that's when I was alive.
mm, mm,
And not so many of the other things that externally validate me or
mm,
identify me.
mm, mm,
And so it makes me wonder if when the survival needs are met and there's this challenge of needing meaning, if what we invest our meaning in is often slightly a red herring from the kind of meaning that we're talking about now.
mm, mm,
And
mm,
if this isn't sort of the body's natural meaning making, I'm not sure how to finish that, meaning making in the moment, or
mm,
I mean, I really like the word intimacy.
mm, mm,
But that for me just shifts the question slightly. It's the question of why is gratitude the basic?
mm,
Why does it come so easily when there's nothing in the way? And the
mm,
question becomes, well, why is intimacy so magical?
mm, 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 mm. Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, my sense as I'm resonating with your description right now is it's quite natural for a healthy baby to feel deeply connected to a loving parent, to eating when hungry, the delicious feeling of pooping when you have to. There's a kind of natural intimacy with a moment
Hmm.
that we then need to go through a process of ego development, of thought, of language, and we develop, we could say, a substitute self,
Hmm.
a little bit like taking a shower in a raincoat. And and there's this gap which makes us really sad. you know. Rumi had a beautiful one. There's a candle in your heart waiting to be kindled. There's a void in your soul waiting to be filled. You feel it, don't you? He doesn't say, do you feel it? He says, you feel it, don't you? Because we all know that.
Yeah.
The sense of, is that all there is? Or that sense of going through the motions of living. And it's not only, you don't have to have severe depression to have that.
Oh no.
That can be all of us.
Yeah.
And to name that is good, I think. And to see the antidote is, oh, there's something in me that knows intimacy from my very earliest experience of living, knows what it's like not to feel separate from the moment,
Hmm.
and longs for that.
Hmm.
And there are ways of encourage. You can't make that, but you can encourage it.
Hmm. Yeah.
I think focusing can encourage that. Certainly, the way I approach meditation encourages that kind of meeting. That kind. Again, you can't make it, but you can invite it. You can grow the neural networks
Hmm.
of gratitude, the
Hmm.
neural networks of interconnection, and then grace can happen or not. But you can cultivate the soil really well.
When you talk about focusing in this context,
Mm,
I'm just bringing to mind experience, the moments of this kind of experience for me,
yeah.
and the kind of focusing that helps me welcome it.
Mm, mm,
And I'm thinking, rightly or wrongly, it's a slightly different form of focusing
mm,
because it is a body awareness. I can feel it in my chest and my stomach. It's like there's particular places in my body that feel this gratitude, this
mm,
contentment, this enoughness that just really has an exquisite quality to it.
mm, mm.
Because I know focusing, I know to stay with it.
Yeah.
But then there's something about just kind of welcoming it, not getting a handle, not
Mm,
naming it,
mm,
not in any way kind of inviting you know, an understanding of it. Any
mm,
of those things for me would get in the way.
mm,
And what happens instead of asking myself, how does this feel? What happens instead is just staying with it. Suddenly, images, kind of faint images come, and that's where the timelessness is. It's
mm,
like a channel opens through my body that seems to not be identified with me and my needs,
mm, mm,
oddly.
mm, mm,
And if I tried any other kind of focusing than just kind of welcoming, I think I would bother it a bit.
mm, 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 mm. Yeah, a special way of just being with it.
Yeah.
Well, I resonate with that. I have one twist on that.
Hmm.
There is, from my experience, a way of naming or using language that can further
Hmm.
and deepen,
Hmm.
but it's close to I think it's still worthy of a distinction of different kinds of focusing, but it's it's certainly not problem solving. It's
Yeah.
certainly not it's hard to say it. There's no owning of it. There's no inner
Mm.
attempt to box it. But the way great poetry works, it can name it in a way that opens it. And you're still with it, but it's now opening further. And so
Yeah.
it's tricky because there is a part of us that wants to own experience.
Mhm. Yes.
And that's not always bad or wrong or anything. That can have its value. But for what we're talking about here, intimacy with living moments, that's what gets in the way. It happens in meditation all the time where somebody's, it's happened. Meditation has found them. I always say you don't make meditation, you create conditions where meditation finds you. And you're sitting there, and then you start having some moments, and I think, wow, this is really good. Oh, wow, I'm really meditating now. Oh, my mind is so quiet. And the ego structure or something, some self-identity tries to encapsulate, own,
Mhm.
I created this, I'm in charge of this, and of course it vanishes the sense of intimacy.
Exactly. I think that's exactly what I'm uh, emphasizing in myself is that the kind of moment we're talking about, and I'm feeling it bodily, I need to just welcome it because to start with, it's somewhat fragile
Mm,
and I could lose it. And like lately, I've been saying to myself, just stay with it, just because my tendency is to do what you were just describing, is to kind of name it, understand it, to look at it really closely, and those things don't welcome it.
no, right.
But if, and I think this is almost like a slightly later development in some ways, if, as you were saying, you have that state, sometimes you can speak poetically from it in a way that
Mm,
the state itself resonates and reverberates,
yes,
and there's a nice kind of mutual reinforcing of it in some way.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's like it speaks.
Yes, exactly. For me, that's a slightly later. I need to welcome it enough that it's really there
Mm,
first before
yeah, yes, yes. And I want to emphasize that, we talk about intimacy with wonderful moments, with ordinary moments. I also want to talk about intimacy with painful moments.
Mhm.
I don't want to push that into another place because there is bad places here, or the
Sorry,
some.
can you just back up a bit? The
Yeah.
connection just
Oh yeah, there is implicit meaningfulness when the sad place is here, and I can open towards that, and not just trying to get rid of it, not
Mhm.
not playing my games with it or my controls of it, but being
Mhm.
really with it
Yeah,
and for it, we could say. And
yeah,
so I don't want to give an impression that it's always positive states or turning something into a positive state the way people talk about positive or
yeah,
negative in terms of enjoyable or not enjoyable. So there is a beauty a beauty to the various ways that we feel authentic and true to the
Hmm.
experiencing that's occurring.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, I can really feel that just as you say that,
Mm,
and recent experiences of my own that affirm that.
mm,
Yeah.
mm. Yeah, yeah, this sense, I want to go back to something we said a while ago. Um, if we recognize even a little bit, or starting with it conceptually, and then seeing where it goes, that maybe this moment that we are engaged in is living, that there's a livingness.
Hmm.
It's not only that you're living and I'm living, and
Hmm.
but that this actual it's kind of like when I realized that the earth was a living being. It's a totally different relationship as a guy from New York City who walked on concrete all the time and everything, you know. What? What? But getting a kind of inner sense
Yeah.
that the environment is living
Yeah.
was a real big opening in my experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that furthered some years ago into not only the environment, not only the space, but the moment is arriving and we are participating in
Mm-hmm.
something that's larger than
Hmm.
us.
Yeah.
Even when we're sitting alone
Hmm.
at our desk, or that we're participating in a larger living moment.
Yes.
And when that becomes meaningful at all, the sense of meaningfulness is available in
Hmm.
a real way.
Yes.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. I really resonate with that. I think that's a really nice way of saying it. Yeah.
And one of the things that it does, and this is tricky, again, all this can be tricky, is it decentralizes the historic self.
Mm.
It doesn't get rid of the historic self, the Russell who he thinks he is, and he's this age, and he's this sex, and he's like, the historic self is always here, but it decentralizes it and allows the moment to include that guy.
Hmm.
But the moment is so much larger,
Yeah.
and and can be experienced not only from inside the historic Russell, but as that as a part of a larger something.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's not like your awareness is just in your body, it's that your body is also in your awareness.
There, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Yes, I. Rudolf Steiner said it. Wisdom is in me, and I am in wisdom.
Hmm. Hmm.
Wisdom is this larger space that I am in. It's also in here. It's
Hmm.
where the inner being and the vastness are
Yes.
intimate. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I want to just I'm partly, even though I'm really enjoying this and
Yeah. I think we've been out there enough. Let's get.
well, I think it's connected, but yeah, it does go in a slightly different direction. Is It makes me wonder a little bit, especially what you were just saying about the importance of the physical body.
Mm, mm,
Because what you were just saying, my experience of something at least similar is almost like my awareness is really out here.
mm,
And I'm attending further out and also further in. It's not like I disappear.
mm,
I'm much less um, aligned with or obsessed with myself. It's almost like I am, uh, in a way, it's almost like I am just another part of the larger environment.
mm,
I
mm,
have special access to this me, but
mm.
otherwise, I don't feel quite the ownership of it that I might otherwise.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, yes. So
But
what's the relationship of the physical body to all that?
exactly. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And
Yeah.
what is the physical body, maybe, is also a part of it.
Mm, 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 mm. I love the way you put that. Mm. Yeah, so physical body, we'll move toward what it is. But let's start with, it's very helpful for locating the present moment to ground oneself on this spot,
Mhm.
to start from right here. The physical body is a doorway to the present moment. The present moment is the doorway to the timeless and the vast space. So most people, and I don't want to say it that way, it's unhelpful ultimately to have one's identity with one's physical body. It's
Mhm.
it's a losing game.
Yeah.
Be identified with your youthful body. Uh-oh. If you're lucky, you're not going to have that. Be identified with this ability in your body. You're probably going to lose that too. And whatever you do, if you're lucky enough to live, it's going to disintegrate. And so, not a great bet. So, as an identity, it's not helpful, and yet as a temporary location,
Yeah.
as a way of entering
Yeah.
present moment, it's a great, great gift. And as a container for the feeling self, for information about the living moment, it's wonderful to have access to what's living in here. But then we need, in my view, we need to realize that the boundaries of the physical body are too small for my living experience.
Yes.
That the experiencing is happening in a larger space, which doesn't mean this physical body is not important. As I've said, it's a great neutral way of coming home, but don't stay there only. Have that and grow out from that.
Mhm.
And in many moments, decentralize the identity here so that one can really open. In my experience, that's how intuitions occur, that's how grace occurs, that's how new ideas come. They don't come only from inside, they come from a certain openness.
Mhm.
And the emphasis that we tend to have in Western culture of it all coming from in there
Yeah.
is an unfortunate diminishment of our interconnectivity with life in the living moment. right? There's, it has to result in a kind of narcissism to think that it's all in here.
Hmm.
So somehow we have to let go of that. But historically, most of the time, letting go of that was either a disassociation and that was not helpful, or a discounting of the value of the body, or judging it, or are you a spiritual being or are you a bodily being? This kind of crazy, unfortunate concept. We don't want that. We want to value this body, but not diminish our interconnectivity with all of life.
So let me just respond. I it makes a lot of sense to me that if I say something like this body is Greg's way of accessing life.
Mm, mm,
Um, the thing that I'm wondering about is practices like I know that you know a lot about, practices that do concentrate on the physical body, and wondering um, whether that reifies the physical body as a kind of a separate physicality,
mm,
or whether that works with the body in a way that the physicality opens and extends in some
mm. Yeah, yeah, both. I mean, there's clearly a trap
way. Right.
in most systems, every system I know that emphasizes the physical body. If there's not also a commitment to the sensing of that larger, of
Hmm.
beyond the physical body.
Hmm.
It's similar to if people end up worshiping the feelings, or what I call the feeling body, or feelings themselves. Whenever someone diminishes the human being to a part of our way of knowing, there's a problem.
Yeah.
So people who live in their intellect are missing a lot of life. Very good things come from intellect. We want that. People live in their feelings are missing a lot of life if that's this overemphasized. In their bodies, it's overemphasized. In the spiritual world beyond the self, that any of those are a trap when they get disconnected from the whole.
Hmm.
So I'm always reminding myself and my students to have online at the same time our physical body, our feeling body,
Hmm.
our connection to the world around us,
Hmm.
right? And our thinking. So we have sensation, feeling, thought, and connection to the larger space, all functioning together.
Hmm.
And that is holistic experience. That is a doorway to intimacy.
Yes, because as you're saying that, I'm revisiting those moments that have gratitude and feel like they're enough.
Yeah.
And as I heard you say all that, I was thinking, I think those moments are when there's some kind of a balance in those realms.
Yeah. 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 They don't have to be equal, but there's some kind of balance.
Yeah.
We can have a strong mental experience.
Hmm.
Is our feeling in our body and our connection not too far away?
Hmm.
We that they're available.
Yeah.
That's great. Oh, that's a lot though, isn't it? We
Yeah.
we, we did a lot, Greg.
I think we did do a lot. Yes. Yeah, I'm gonna go out and walk my dog and I'm
Yeah, I'm gonna go out and smell my flowers. It's That's great. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Yeah. Thank you
I
very,
think
very
that's
much.
I think that's a good place
Yeah, so
to
do I.
and in a few months we can do it again and hit some other things.
Yeah, I'd love to. At the moment, I do feel enough.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks very
Take good
much.
care.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
See you soon. Bye.